So we cleaned our parts. We got everything back in our container. We're going to go ahead and re-lubricate everything and put it back together. Now, if we're putting it back together right after we clean the machine, you don't have to dry anything. We're going to put it back together wet because we're going to sanitize before we start it up with mix. If you're cleaning it and leaving it before you sanitize, then we can leave it to air dry on the counter, put it all back together when we come in the next day. Everybody's process is a little different, okay? So whatever works best for you is fine. So we're going to go ahead, we'll start with our beater shaft, okay? Very important, be careful with this. Don't throw it into the sink, try not to drop it, okay? It's a delicate piece, it's an expensive piece, and we need to make sure that everything is in line and working the way that it should so that we get a good scrape off the barrel wall, okay? So we have our lubricant. Now everyone's will be a little different. I like this one, okay, Petrogel. It's not a water-based, it's an oil-based lubricant, so it lasts a little longer, it's a little thicker. But again, depending on how often we're cleaning our machine, if we're cleaning it every other day or every couple of days, it's okay. We can use a standard lubricant. Okay, so now our shaft seal. A little goes a long way with the lubricant. Okay, I'm going to put a little on my finger here, and we're going to put it just on the inside of this white cup seal here. Okay, just on the inside. We don't want to load this thing up with lubricant on the outside, along the ridges here. We just want to make sure we get it on the inside white part. Okay, now we can go ahead and slide this on. Remember, it can go either way. Okay, we want to make sure that that spins. We get some good lubricant in there. We'll put this off to the side. And our blades. Okay, now we being in November, what did we say? The odd circle towards the back. Okay, odd circle towards the back. Okay. Now when we put this in, just like when we took it out, we want to have a blade on top and a blade on bottom. So we're sliding on the skis. Okay, you can think of it like skis. We're going to slide. I'll take off a little bit of that lubricant. And we're going to push. Okay. Now don't struggle and think, what's going on? I can't get it in. We're just going to rotate it until we feel it lock. Okay. When you think it's in, push a little bit more. You'll know it's locked in when you get some resistance as you go to turn this. And we want to make sure, again, we have a blade on top and a blade on the bottom. Now remember, we have our mixed feed tube. Two different pieces here. We have our O-rings, nice and clean. We're going to go ahead and we're going to put this in the hopper separately. But before that, we'll put a little bit of lubricant on these two bottom O-rings. Okay, a little bit up top here. Again, if any of these are loose or they're flying off, change them. You have spares in your spare parts kit, and if you aren't sure what goes there, just reference the O-ring chart. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to lay these down in the hopper. Okay. We have our head. Now, big O-ring here. Okay, we're going to put some more lubricant on there. Again, a little goes a long way. Okay. And be careful. Try not to get any lubricant on the front face, because that's what comes in contact with the mix. Okay, so we'll wipe off any lubricant that we see anywhere. Anything on the front face that we want to get off. Now this lubricant, again, odorless, tasteless, food grade, so it's not going to harm anyone. Now we have our plunger. Okay, this piece will go in O-rings down into the head. We'll put some lubricant on here. This will ensure when we're pulling the handle to make our shakes, it's nice and smooth. Okay, again, check your O-rings, make sure there's no nicks or any cuts or any tears. This goes O-rings down into the head. And we'll see there's a little notch here. That's what the handle is going to go in. So we'll make sure that we rotate that towards the back. Okay, push all the way down. Our head bushing. Okay, very important. This keeps the beater shaft in place from dancing around and ruining the blades, okay, or the beater shaft. And also protects the head. Now we talked about before, this has to come off. There's a little groove here and a little notch. Okay, so this fits in there just like a key. But before we put it in, we want to just put a little bit of lubricant on there. On the inside portion. Okay, and we can also use what's left on our finger on the outside. And that will sit right in here. Okay, now I see sometimes people want to put this on here and then try to put the head on. Very difficult because we have to line up that notch with the exact same spot on the head in order to get this on properly. So let's put the bushing in the head first and then we'll put the head onto the machine. Okay, so we have our head assembled. We also our float sensor. We're going to just drop this in. Don't put it on the post, just leave it up there. When we throw the sanitizer in, it'll hit all those parts. Okay, so now we're ready to put our head back on. We want to make sure we have a blade on the top and a blade on the bottom, right? Head goes on. Okay, now it's not going to go on all the way. There's an O-ring there, and we have our hand knobs to help bring it in tighter. Now when we tighten the head down, we want to try to do both sides at once so that we're pulling the head on evenly. Okay, a couple turns this way, a couple turns this way. And again, finger tight is fine here, finger tight. Don't want to use a tool or anything to tighten these down. So I want to be able to get them off with my hands. Okay. Okay, we're going to put the rest of our pieces together here. So now we have our spindle motor, which we had off to the side. Okay. Our handle sits right into that groove. Our spindle motor. We're going to go right down into here. Okay. We're going to push until it sits on that ridge. You can't push it down anymore. Okay, plug our spindle in here. Next we have our keeper pin. Now you'll see there's a little ball bearing here. Okay, and this we want to put into the machine with the ball bearing. There's two holes on the side of the head. Ball bearing in the top hole. Okay, push. And then we're going to push through to the other side. Okay, now you can do this from either side. It can go on that side or it can go on this side, whichever you prefer. Okay, and our last piece is this, the most important piece of the machine. Be very, very careful with this because without this, we have no machine. Okay, I call this the key to the machine. Without this, we cannot use the machine. So very important. Every store should have a backup. Okay, some stores should also have a backup spindle, just in case the spindle goes down. We have nothing to blend our shakes. Okay, or at least have an extra spindle in the system. If you have a couple stores, you can kind of move it around. But this piece we need to make sure that we save, and this goes behind the head, and it sits right in the top groove of the plunger. Okay, now we want to make sure we test, make sure everything goes up and down smooth, which it does. We lubricated our parts. Okay, everything's assembled, everything's ready to go. So now we'll mix up our sanitizer, and we'll do the same thing as before. We'll put the sanitizer in. We'll let the machine run on clean for about 5 minutes. We're going to drain the sanitizer out, and then we're going to do the next most important thing with the machine, and that's what we call priming the freezer, or getting it ready for the day, where we're going to use the mix to flush out the sanitizer and then start it up. Okay, very important. We'll go through that step.